and I hope you'll join me in opening your arms to future people of action. We would live in a better world if every Rotary member truly lived the four-way test instead of simply reciting it. I love my Rotary family, and I can feel that love in this room.
Presidential theme for the next Rotary year, as I'm sure you all know by now, is the magic of Rotary. So I am delighted to invite our RI President-elect, Stephanie, to speak to us all. So thank you very much, Stephanie, and it's now over to you.
Thank you very much, Eve, and Sergio, and my irresistible governors-elect for the warm welcome. Presidents-elect, as you work with these magnificent governors, you too will find out why they are so irresistible. I'm delighted to be able to spend some time with you today. It is always an honor for me to be with the family of Rotary. I've been asked to share with you some information about how we're going to work together next year. That is my great privilege. The fact that I get to work with each and every one of you. People will often say, well, the office of president is a big job. And I say, well, I can't go wrong because I have 1.4 million people who are going to help me. So I want to talk with you a little bit today about what it is that we're looking at. What will the Rotary year 24-25 bring forward for us? But before I do that, I wanted to share with you, the governor-elects know this story, but some of you president-elects may not have heard the story about why the message for next year is the magic of Rotary. It actually comes from an experience I had on a Rotary assignment. I was in the Dominican Republic. My job was, with my district, we were installing water filters in homes. And so as I went into a home, it was two women, a grandmother and a mother, and three little boys. And so we put the water filter together, and before we would leave, we would show them how to use it, how to clean it, but then we would always test it. So we would put dirty water in one end, and it would come out clean on the other side. So it would come out dirty on the other end. And when we finally stopped doing the test, one of the little boys ran up to me and said, lady, show me that magic again. So to that little child, the water filter was magic. But we know that the magic wasn't the water filter. The magic was what was going to happen to that family now that they had access to clean water. The women no longer have to walk for hours to find water. The little boys could go back to school, and their lives would change because of the magic that you and I do when we support projects, when we support our foundation, when we do things on behalf of others. That's where the magic is. So the magic of Rotary really resides within each of us. We are the magic. Each time we bring in a new member, each time we work on a project, each time we donate for polio eradication or other foundation projects, we are creating magic. So next year, as we continue to create all of this magic, there are two areas that really deserve our focus. One is membership growth, and the other is peace. The first one, membership growth, if you've been in Rotary for a number of years, like I have, you know, we've been talking about it for a long time. For nearly 30 years, Rotary International has shown us charts showing that overall, worldwide, the membership keeps dropping. But that is the problem. We've talked about it. We've talked about it, and we've talked about it. But we are people of action. We really must act on it. We need to have a thriving future. I love Rotary just like you do. Look at us look how many of us are on this call right now. We love Rotary. We could be doing so many other things right now, but we've decided to be on this call because Rotary is important to us. Rotary is important to the world. We can't afford to go away because the world needs us. So it's important for us to look at how do we grow our membership. So really there are three things that must happen at the same time. We cannot work on one and then do the others another year. We must work on all three of these at the same time. And those three things are attracting members to our existing clubs, retaining members that we already have, keep them in our clubs, and then the third one, form new clubs in our areas. I want to talk about each one of them because they are different. Our action plan helps us with looking at ourselves, our clubs, to help in each of these areas, but I want to spend some time on each one. So attracting members to our clubs. We have a product in Rotary, as you heard, and our product is the club experience. Every Rotary meeting, every Rotary event we have is our product. You're business people. If you sell a product or a service and somebody doesn't like it, what do? They go someplace else. All right. The same thing happens in Rotary. People will leave if they don't feel that their expectations are met. If they don't feel that they're getting value from the club itself, they will take off. Sometimes they will go to other clubs, but more often than not, they will simply leave Rotary. We can't afford to do that. So the very first thing we have to do is make sure that our clubs are attractive. And there are lots of ways for us to do that. That's where the phrase making our clubs simply irresistible comes from. We want to make sure that we have an environment that makes people feel like they belong. We want to make sure that the club is active, that they are doing many things, that they're doing the right things, because an active club is an attractive club. You know, even within your own districts, sometimes there are clubs who could be right next door to each other and can be very different. You know, I am in my third Rotary club. First Rotary club, I spent 10 years, very happy, wonderful club. And then I got a new job. So I moved to a club closer to where I was working. That club, at best, was a lunch bunch. That's all they did. They ate. That's it. They didn't do youth exchange. They didn't do community service. They didn't do international service. They ate. Well, I was a previous district governor by then. I needed more. So I would say, how about we try? And they would all look at their shoes. Or I'd say, let's try something, and they would glaze over. They just didn't want to do anything. Fortunately, as an active Rotarian, I knew that I had a choice, that I could look for a different kind of club. So I went to the club next door, which is the club I'm currently in. And I have been there for more than a dozen years, very happy. It's a very active club, does so many different things. So we do have choices, but people want to get value from their Rotary Club experience. So that's why I suggest every club president-elect, listen to this carefully. It's important that you survey your club members at least once a year. What does that mean? That means that we have to ask them, how are we doing? You can find many, many survey forms on Rotary.org. There are forms like the health checklist, all kinds of forms on Rotary. Or you can create your own simply by using SurveyMonkey or some other method. But it's important for us to ask members, do you like when we meet? Do you like where we meet? Do you like the projects we're doing? Is there something you'd like to do that we aren't doing yet? To get feedback from them. Now, you may not use anything that they tell you because it just may not be appropriate. But the fact that you've given them an opportunity to be a part of the future of the club is what's important. So we always want to make sure that we ask our club members, how are we doing? Because that lets us then look at our speakers, look at our club projects, look at our socials, and we can make some changes, not big ones. I'm not talking about throwing everything out. I'm talking about small things that will continuously help us to improve. It's a matter of going from good to great, or from not so good to better, whatever the case may be. So here's one tip that I will give presidents-elect. It is a tip I give every time I speak at president-elect training seminars. Do not invite people to your club meeting. What is she saying? There's a reason. If you invite a person to your club meeting, we are all guilty of this. Somebody will stand up, you or someone else in the club, the current president, and will say, the DG and the DGE are coming to visit before COL, but after RILA. Well, if your prospect, your guest doesn't know Rotary language, they're going to think, oh, I don't belong here. I don't even know what they're talking about. And we all do it. It is better to invite a person to a club project or to a social, because ultimately we want them to see who we are and what we do. So think about that. Just a tip. It might be helpful. The second thing we have to do is retain the members that we have. It is no good to bring in 10 members if at the end of the year 15 members have gone. That doesn't get us anywhere. And the key to retention is engagement, making sure that there are enough things happening in the club for which everybody can find a part to play. So that means asking people what they'd like to do, asking them, as I mentioned in the survey, asking them, are there things you want to work on? You're interested in the environment? Well, we're not doing that currently. Let's think about how we can do that. Maybe we can plant some trees as a project or something. But make sure that you are doing things that engage people so that they feel relevant in the club. It's also important, and this ties into my other topic of peace, it's also important that we recognize that we have to work on conflict resolution in our clubs. You know, peace begins with us personally, but then it also works in our families, and then it works in our clubs, and then in our community, and ultimately in our countries. If we can't have peaceful environments in our clubs, how in the world are we going to show the globe that we're a peace-building organization? Too often, I talk with clubs or I visit clubs, and there's tension, or there's bickering, or there's election disputes, or there's this or that. We can't afford to do that in Rotary if we want to show the world that's who we are as peace builders. I recommend every club take a look at the Learning Center. Presidents-elect, take a look at the Learning Center. There is a course on the Learning Center for peace and conflict resolution. If those are issues that are happening in your club, that course may be a helpful first step for you to help get that kind of better environment, that better atmosphere that will be attractive to people. The third thing we have to do at the same time is start new clubs. And you're thinking, well, why should I start a new club? If I'm working on making my club attractive, why do we need new clubs? The answer to that is simply because the world continues to change and Rotary has to change with it. You know, we have changed. When you think about it, in the late 80s, we brought women in. In 2016, our Council on Legislation realized that people were having different lifestyles, and it created e-clubs and passport clubs and satellite clubs and cause-based clubs. It gave us new models because up until that time, every Rotary club in the world did the same thing. We met 4 times a month. We took attendance. We rang bells. Nothing's wrong with any of that. We've just realized that there were people who were looking for something a little different. You know, many years ago, I made the mistake of asking a young professional to come to my club meeting. So sure enough, we went to the club, and the president jumped up, and he rang a bell, and we did the pledge, and we said the 4-way test, and we sat down, and the young man leaned over to me and said, "That was a lot like Pavlov's dogs." And it was. It worked for us. But it was a message to me that he would be interested in something completely different. So that's why, one of the reasons we want to form new clubs. Sometimes our clubs, our traditional clubs, I'm in one, I'm never going to leave it, I love my club. But we were meeting Wednesday at 12 o'clock. If we were meeting Wednesday at noontime, who were we missing in our community? We couldn't attract teachers. We couldn't attract medical people who had patients. We couldn't attract retailers who had customers. We were missing a whole group of people who may have wanted to be public servants. So we decided to change our meeting. We moved to morning. And so now, instead of 12 o'clock, we meet at 7:30. And instantly, the next week that we did that, we gained 2 members because they could now come before they went to work, and all of us could come now before we went off to our jobs. But we didn't stop there. We also started talking to other groups in our community. We talked to our Interact Club. We talked to our Chamber of Commerce. We talked to a group that we have of young professionals who are learning leadership. We talked to all of them and asked them about their interest in community service. And what we found out was they were interested in serving. They were not real interested in coming to a meeting every week. So we looked at those models, and sure enough, the impact model of satellite is the one that is meant for people who want to serve but not go to meetings. So we started an impact group, and they go out twice a month. They work in our local area. They go to our local food bank. They go to our senior centers. They go anywhere where they can find ways that they can provide service to the community. We invite them to our meetings every week, but they do not come because they're not interested in meetings. They do come to our socials because generally we have beer at our socials. And then we know that they're not coming to meetings, so we know they're not learning about Rotary. So every other month, we have a special night just for that Impact Club. Only 2 Rotarians go. And what we do is talk about Rotary while we socialize. Now, I'm telling you that story because the very first night that we did the induction of the Impact members to our club, we went from being a club of 34 to a club of 58 in one night. That's why it's worth investigating. There could be people in your communities who are like that, who are interested. Now, the biggest complaint I get from clubs, they generally say, oh, we don't want to start an impact group because if we do that, it's going to cannibalize our membership. Everybody's going to want to join the impact. It doesn't happen. We didn't lose a single member. All of the research that Rotary does on new clubs is saying that 85% of people are first-time Rotarians. They've never been in Rotary before. So it's worth investigating that. New club formation is what's really helping us grow Rotary. So all three things, attract them, keep them, and start new clubs is the way that we will grow Rotary. The second thing I want to touch on briefly is our message for helping to heal a divided world. The world is a mess. It's a mess. Pick up your phone, your device, your TV, listen to it. There's crazy stuff happening all the time. Yet in Rotary, we have tools to help with peace actions. We can do this. I always mention we have this brilliant 4-way test, 4 sentences that are so powerful, so strong. If we put every thought, word, and action through that filter, we would have more peaceful environments. Living the 4-way test is a peace action. Reciting it is not. There's a difference. So we really need to embrace it and use it, share it with our Rotaractors, our interactors, our Rilarians. Recently, I went to a RILA camp, and one of the things they did was a 4-way test speech contest. And they had the winners there. I'm telling you, listening to a 17-year-old talk about how the 4-way test impacted her life was incredible to me. So there are many ways we can use our tools. That's only one of them. We have online programs. In that learning center, there's also a program for peace activators. It was developed by the Institute for Economics and Peace and Rotary, and in 2 hours, you can learn the difference between negative peace and positive peace. So it is worth taking a look at. We have a program called the Rotary Peace Pole Project, which is where we erect monuments in a community, either in a park or in a school campus, and the monuments say on each side, "May peace prevail on earth," in the languages that represent your area. So it could be English, it could be Spanish, it could be Portuguese, but anybody in the community then who walks by sees that this is something that Rotary put there. It has the master brand. New ones have QR codes so people can learn more about Rotary. It's a brilliant way to share the message that we are peace builders. And of course, you heard Director Eve talk about our peace centers. We have 6. We're about to have 7 when we open our newest one in Bahçeşehir University in Turkey, in Istanbul. So if you are a peace activator, you're a person interested in building peace, I would encourage you also, please accept an invitation to come and join us February 20th, 21st, and 22nd in Istanbul. Registration will open next month in July, and I'm sure you'll hear more about that from your directors and your coordinators. So, my message to you today really is about being focused on action. We are people of action. So everything I've shared with you today isn't new. We've been talking about membership for many, many, many years. We've been an organization devoted to peace since we started. So these are not new ideas, but they are ideas that we need to embrace and really work on. The magic of Rotary does not have a verb in front of it intentionally, because you can supply the verb depending on how you're using it. You can grow the magic of Rotary if you're adding new members. You can advance the magic of Rotary if you're fundraising for polio eradication or for the Rotary Foundation. You can share the magic of Rotary if you're talking about public image, or you can celebrate the magic of Rotary if you're at an anniversary for a club or a district. So you can select how to put the words in. One final note before I stop and take questions. I mentioned public image. You know, we talk to ourselves too much. Everybody on this call knows what Rotary is. It's the people who are not on this call who need to understand what Rotary is. Generally, when I talk to people, despite how much we have advertised, how much we have on social media, how many Rotary magazines we have, there are still people who think that we are Romeo, rich old men eating out. Look at this screen. It is not who we are. It's our job as Rotary leaders to share that message with people, to say to people, you know, we're different, we've changed, and to talk about the things that I mentioned earlier. We brought in women, we have new models, we're a different organization. When we say that, people will listen differently. So I hope that you embrace the idea of sharing it. You know, it's not hard. Do you know, we've just come back from Singapore. I sponsored a new member while we were in Singapore. It's not hard. I met somebody at a lunch table who had come with a speaker and didn't know much about Rotary. So I told him about Rotary, and the more we talked, the more he said, that sounds really interesting. How can I get involved? That's all I had to hear. So I took his card, and so, you know, he's going to Rotary meetings now. It's not hard. I feel sorry for people who sit next to me on an airplane, because that's all I do is talk about Rotary. We need to continue to share that message. If all of us did that, we wouldn't have issues. We would grow, but we have to inspire our membership to understand the importance of growing Rotary and doing it together. Our vision statement begins with that word together. Helen Keller said it, you know, by ourselves, we can do some, but when we're together, we can do so much more. So it's up to us to make sure that we do what we can. We are people of action, and let's show the world the magia de Rotary. All right, I'm going to stop. And Sergio, I'm not sure how we are going to handle questions, but I will let you.
We don't have so much time. I know we are just.
We have 9 minutes. Let's make the most of it.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for your message, and thank you so much for being here. I know you're very tight, but I hope that this is not your first time in Iberia, and I have this dream that we can have you here one of these days. So thank you again. Very quickly, I will kindly ask you to each DG that can address you a very short question, because we don't have too much time. So I will start again with Luis from District 2201. Luis, please.
Yes. Thank you, Sergio. Stephanie, the very 1st of July, as soon as I will begin as governor, I will open the Peace Camp in Maspalomas, Canary Islands, in District 221, because District 221 have one of the very few Rotary cities of peace in Europe.
Great.
With your permission, yes, I would like to invite them to this special event, and I will then inspire our Rotary clubs for the promotion of peace and promote the Peace Institute of Istanbul. But now that we have the privilege of having you here, I will ask you to explain to the President-elects, if you don't mind, how Action Champions could help us of the action plan and the promotion of peace.
Well, the action plan champions are in place because even though the action plan was released in 2017, as I continue to go around the world, I still encounter Rotarians who say, oh, action plan, that's interesting. What is that? So clearly, we have not done a good enough job in getting the action plan into the clubs. Rotary International has accepted it. It's been accepted at the zones and districts, but clubs. Rotary does not happen where I sit here in Evanston. It happens in the clubs. President-elects where you are. You are the leaders of clubs. That's where Rotary will happen. That's why it's so important for you to work with your action plan champion to help all of your club members understand what it is, why we have it, but most importantly, what to do with it, how to use it. It is not a mandate. It is not Rotary saying you must do this. Instead, it's a tool, and the action plan champions will help you understand how to use that tool in all of the areas of focus that we have, what it means for all areas. There are 4 priorities, and it really means looking at your club through those 4 priorities to see where can we get a little bit better in what we're doing. So that's a quick answer to your question, Luis.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Luis,
much.
and thank you, Stephanie. Now I go directly to Monse. Please, a quick question, Monse, from District 2202.
Well, I'm not preparing a question. I want to tell that all you told us is very, very interesting and inspiring. And I want to know what we can do when your club doesn't want to grow. Because sometimes, I feel I attract people, but in my club it's difficult to accept new members.
Well, I think,
and I have no time to create another club in this moment. That is my problem.
Okay, thank you, Monse.
well, Monse, you have to find some other people who can help you form another club, because when a club doesn't want to grow and they dig in their heels and they don't want to do anything, the reality is they are going to die. All right, the club will die because all of our clubs have built-in attrition, whether we want to agree with that or not. If you have a club of 20 members and you are not intentional about growing, in that first year, one member is going to die, one member is going to move, one member is going to get another job, and suddenly you have 17. And then the next year, 2 people are going to pass away. One person is going to stop coming because his or her wife is ill and they have to take care of them. And then another person is going to move, and now you're down to 14. If you're not intentional about replacing your members and growing, then you will not be around very long. I look in the mirror every day and I realize I don't have 30 years to do Rotary anymore. But there are some faces on this call that do, and that makes me happy. That makes me happy, and that's what we need to do. We need to keep sharing Rotary so that when we're gone, our legacy is that this club is still happening. Rotary is still happening in our communities. So when a club is not interested in growing, and you're not alone, Mont said there are clubs like that everywhere. I simply tell governors and presidents, look for places where you can create other clubs, because that's going to be our future. Bringing in another way for people who are interested in serving to serve is the answer to that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we don't have time for questions, but we have time for a brief comment from the 3 next governors. Please, Dimas Rizzo, un comentario. Ya no tenemos tiempo de pregunta y contestación, pero un comentario final tuyo, Dimas.
Unmute, please. Unmute, Dimas.
Dimas. No estamos escuchando. Dimas. No te estamos escuchando, Dimas.
Dimas, estás mudo.
Ahora
sí, un comentario breve. Tenemos 2 minutos,
breve,
Dimas.
Muy breve.
30 segundos para cada uno, por favor.
Me gustaría preguntarle a nuestra presidenta tu opinión sobre las herramientas que tiene Rotary para la promoción de la paz positiva. Y en concreto, me gustaría me gustaría su opinión sobre el hermanamiento entre los clubes.
Vale.
El hermanamiento, yo propondría que el hermanamiento se pudiera intensificar entre los clubes que tienen problemas, que tienen conflictos en sus territorios, en
Muy
sus
bien,
países.
Dimas, muy bien. Gracias,
Me
perdona
gustaría
en
conocer su
cortarte.
opinión al respecto.
Muchas gracias. Perdona cortarte porque ya no tenemos tiempo. So, Stephanie, Dimas was asking about the connection between clubs through peace and how important this is. And it was a question, but we really have not enough time to answer. I don't know if you want to say just something to Dimas directly about the peace and the join between clubs.
Well, I think anytime you can get clubs to work together is a plus, because president-elects who are on this call, if you go to your club and ask club members how many of them have ever been to a district event, you will be surprised how few hands go up. Most Rotarians don't ever see the bigger picture of Rotary. They don't know about international convention. They don't know about Rotary action groups. They don't know about Rotary fellowships. We need to provide opportunities for them to do that. One of the best things we can do is help clubs have inter-club meetings, inter-club projects, and to force that interaction, because if they stay in their own club, they never see the bigger picture.
Thank you,
Sergio, I'm going to tell you now that I know that there are questions. I apologize. I talk too much because I have so much I want to say. But if you collect the questions from the people who are on the call and get them to me either through Eve or through my assistant, Maria Lee, I will be happy to provide an answer. I will write an answer and get that to you, because I know there are probably questions. And I apologize that I have to leave, but I do have another Zoom meeting. I thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Stephanie, for being here with us. And I also thank you, Antonio and Paulo, to understanding that we don't have more time. But this is wonderful, a great opportunity to have you, Stephanie, with us. Gracias a todos, obrigado. Habemos tenido mucha gente a participar, más que las que habían estado previstas. Ha sido un éxito, pero vamos a enviar la grabación a todos y vamos a fazer chegar o vídeo a toda a gente. Gracias a los gobernadores electos. Thank you, Stephanie. Obrigado a todos. Thank you, Eve. Bye-bye.
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 Brilliant.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.